recording studio, part of the Chicago Park District. And this is a video, part of a series that we're making talking about our best practices, teaching trips and tricks that we've used in showing kids about MIDI instruments and teaching composition using Ableton Live. So, in this video, I want to talk about using the drum pad, introducing the drum pad, and ways to support students in playing using the drum pad for the first time and supporting yourself as a teacher planning ahead so that editing the drum patterns created by students is easy and convenient. So, if you've followed the other videos that we've made, you'll know that I've got a bunch of different drum kits set up in my Ableton session. And I've got them all pink because that helps me know that they are configured to receive information from the nanopad, from my drum sampler. And here's my nanopad, just a small MIDI sampler with our drum pads on it. For this today, I'm just going to use one kit, and let's figure out what kit I'm going to use. So we're going to just enable a kit. That's okay. I kind of like that kit. Let's check out some other ones, though. Why not while we're at it? That's really nice. The taxi kit's fun. What about the glass kit? Oh, it's gloss, not glass. And how about Grit Life? Okay. I think I want something a little bit more classic. Not not my drilling. Oh, do I have the arpeggiator set up from last time? I sure do. I'm going to turn that off right now. That's what I want for today. Okay. So, when I teach kids how to use the drum pad, I like to ask them if we hit the drum pad or not. Because kids have been conditioned to be so careful, especially with the instruments that we introduce to them, computer technology. And the drum pad is made to be hit. How are you going to play a drum? You're going to have to hit it. So it's really fun to counteract that kind of encouragement to be gentle with introducing something that's made to be hit, that's made to be impacted. And I like to show kids how to support their fingers as well. We don't want kids to get hurt, obviously. If you take your two fingers and you curve them a little bit, I like to explain that this arch is a very strong shape. And this is the way that you're going to be able to play the drums for as long as possible. Of course, if they want to play however they want, it's absolutely fine. I just like to make suggestions and I might remind them of them. And of course, I want to create an environment in which they don't get hurt and they can do this for as long as possible. So there's a lot of buttons on this, and some of these buttons, like, will switch to different sections of our drum kits that don't have any sounds connected to them through the computer. So I do try and point them in the direction of the buttons that I want them to use. But again, it's about experimentation. It's about having fun. So I'm not trying to make it a prohibitory or you're doing it wrong kind of thing. I just want to encourage them to get the most out of it in the time that we have, because usually our time is limited. And a kid will come up. I ask them to make a line. I show them the shape. I ask them to hold their fingers out. And they'll usually totally make a line just fine. And they'll get up to the drum pad and you'll hear something like this, which is wonderful. You know, if you're just encountering this drum pad for the first time, you probably want to just see what's going to happen. But you go totally wild. And that's totally great. When you're wanting to make music, though, in composition, you might want something more focused. So asking them to play the same sound over and over again, or find something that they want to play over and over again. Just something very simple. And I, as a teacher, might even hear something that I think is going to work in the context of our song and play it for them. So they might be playing a sequence, and if I like it, I can play what they just did, and I can record what they are playing and letting them play it just fine. Either one is going to support them in creating our composition, which is our end goal. Why is the composition the end goal with what we do? Because it really does serve as a time capsule without something, without it being something that they're going to necessarily appreciate in the moment in which they're doing it. To be able to have a record of a moment where you were having fun, where you were feeling free and powerful, that you had so much potential in front of you because you could experiment with this new tool, this computer that has hours of music and instruments programmed into it. It's a really nice artifact that we can share with students that they can look back on later and be proud of they did and remember that moment in their lives within the context of everything else that might have been happening in their lives. So being able to give students an artifact, a finished composition at the end of the time that you're working with them really does mean a lot, not just for them, but for their community in general. So let's take our drum pad and see what we can do next. So say you've got a kid that's doing this over and over again. Is their speed going to be consistent? In all likelihood, it's not going to be. But say you're their teacher, you might ask them to stop, and then you're going to think about the rhythm. So you can set the BPM. Boom, boom, clap. Boom, boom, clap. Boom, boom, clap. Boom, boom, clap. I've got the tap function here in Ableton, so I can tap out the rhythm. And the rhythm I'm tapping is 80.54. That's going to be kind of hard to pick out. So let's just do 80. And I can set my metronome. 1, 3, 4. Let's record it. 2. Here we go. So, was my rhythm steady? No. Was I doing that on purpose? Yes. Thank you very much. Most of the time, these kids don't have a background in playing music. They might not be able to keep a steady beat, and that's fine. You've set the tempo that is your best estimation of what they want to, how fast they want to be able to play it. Now you've got your MIDI recording of your sequence. You've got your booms and your claps. And we can take these warp markers and just quickly yoink it over here. Boom, boom, clap. I'm going to add, I don't want to do that. But let's say we just want to, can we add a warp marker there? Let's add it. Oh, let's just select them. And then we're going to yoink we can't yoink the bar. Well, if I select it, it's going to add the warp marker. Yada, yada, yada. So let's do that. And we're going to select, come on back here. Apple Z. Apple Z continues to be the unspoken star. Okay, so I know I've got boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap. That's good enough for me. So let's go ahead and delete this because why not? And we're going to select this area of time. We're going to loop it, Command L, and we're going to play it. Let's see. Are we going to play it? Let's hear what it sounds like. Can I play it? Clap, boom, boom, clap, boom, boom. Great. So now I have begun creating the skeleton of my rhythm. I've got a beginning rhythm that I can work with, and it's in time with the metronome. So I can layer other instruments on top of it, which is fantastic. A great way to start. I'm going to stop this recording. So one student comes up and makes our beat and starts this way. We can give them a round of applause because we're also learning how to encourage each other and to work with a group, part of what we're doing in a big way. Is there just going to be one student that's going to want to use the drum machine? Probably not. It's probably going to be at least a couple more. So how do you support yourself as their audio engineer? You're going to name this track. Say you want to start recording information for the liner notes of your song just so you can give more data and help people feel more seen and validated in their own contribution to our song. Let's call this track the name of the kid who made it. He was Taylor. And the BPM of this track, 80 BPM. This in particular can be really useful because another kid might come up and he might be playing much faster. Do you want to force that kid to conform to your BPM? Personally, some of the music that I find more interesting changes BPM in the middle of the track. So I can support that by naming the BPM, naming the track with the BPM that it was created with. Sometimes also you can tell by the track the BPM that was that it was running at when it was first created, but I can't find that quickly enough here for this little recording and demo. Anyway, so there's that. So you've got your BPM playing, and you want to record more instruments within the same drum sequencer. I think that there's probably many ways that you could do this. You could do override, enable override while you play the clip. And in session view, you should, I think, probably then have the recording of the sequence that you made in addition to whatever you're going to play on top of that. Let's take out clip mode. So if we do override and we record, oh, we need to enable maybe this recording. Yeah, we do. Is it? Oh, is that my clip? Let's expand this and see. There it is. And actually, let's enable this. I have them both going. Actually, get this out here. Let's do. Is it working? Maybe not at this time. So maybe that's something to experiment with. Anyway, let's try that again. So you have this track that this clip that you've created with students, and you want to now add more layers to your clip. There's many different ways to be able to do that. You can press the override button. Let's record. Oh, I don't want to have this be whole. Let's see if this works here now. So now it's overriding, but it's overriding the same duration of our original clip. So maybe that's what you want, maybe that's what you don't want. Let's stop. I'm going to take out of clip view. And I've got this sequence that I originally made. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. Say you want to just use this sequence. I think we can do it. Maybe let's do that. You can press Command D and duplicate it and say go into another instrument. Let's try this one. Significantly louder because I didn't mess with the volume of it. It was this one, I guess, over here. Let's turn you down so that you can support this Zoom presentation. Turn off the volume or those controls in Ableton. And we'll put our cursor to start there. We have the override turned off. So let's record this now. 2, 3, 3, 4. What am I going to keep? It's just an experiment at this point. So I think there I found something that I wanted to hear over and over again. Some of it I'll keep, some of it I won't. But there's another track that I have adding more complexity to my song. So, certainly that's a way to do it. Say you want to create more sequences within the same drum machine. I like to duplicate it. So you can just Command D while selecting the track, and it'll duplicate everything. It'll duplicate the tracks or what's been recorded in session view, in addition to duplicating the instrument. So I'm just going to delete that. And now I don't have to worry about having it repeat the same time over and over again. It will just start recording here, end recording here, and not loop anything. And I can use the same instrument in this way to record. So let's do that. Let's turn this one off. I'm not going to listen to that right now, but that's fine. Okay, so let's record now using my core kit in a new track. That's fun. Okay, great. So now I've got more instruments that are recorded using the same drum kit that are not all the same rhythmic duration. Anyway, those are some of the things that I like to do to support students who are experiencing these instruments for the first time. This is some of the practices that I've found are useful as an audio engineer and teacher in this situation. Obviously, as a teacher coming in, you've got more experience working with these instruments. You've got more experience using these tools, but you want to help students to be able to create something that they feel validates their experience of music. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to be experiencing music that they're already familiar with, but that's now something that they've created. So you want to be prepared to help them access that experience, even if you also encourage them to be more experimental, to try out more new things. I can't recommend enough naming the track, the BPM that you're working at, because once you're done working with the students and going back through the music to try and create an artifact that represents their composition, having those BPMs recorded can be so useful. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope you have a chance to play around with these tools and with Ableton. If you have any other questions, please contact the teaching artists with the Inferno Mobile Recording Studio, and we'll continue sharing videos that reflect the insight that we've gained and the practices that we've tested in teaching composition to kids using Ableton and MIDI instruments. I'll see you later. Bye.